This is episode 341 of the Gold Squadron podcast. I'm one of your hosts, DJ Will, another one, Hegwood, and tonight I'm joined by Ryan. Onward to Season 5, Stanzewski.
Onward and forward, off to the next season. Big time games ahead.
James, can we stop talking about Will winning everything yet? Ritter?
Yeah, it feels like every week all we do is talk about Will. When else has he won?
Well, maybe next week we'll talk about a store championship or win. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But introducing as well your Nickel City Draft Season 4 champions, the Ascendancy, your captain, Dread Champ.
The top-ranked Rebel player.
We also have Colin Miner.
Hello.
And Sean Bowman.
Hey, Team Mom reporting in.
Also, should be joining us, hopefully, in an hour or so, maybe, is Matt Coggins. Also on the team was Francisco, we're going to slaughter it, Pindina, and Darren McNally. Rounding out the 7-man squad is myself, William Hegwood. These 7 players battled it out over a lengthy group, Swiss stage. I wasn't even Swiss. What would we even call it, now that I think about it? Did Greg have a specific term for the style of league?
It was like a standard season.
League. Yeah.
Similar to a football season.
Yeah, in sports-related terms, you'd call that the regular season.
Regular season. So all 7 players battled it out throughout the regular season, ending up at 4 wins, 4 draws, and 2 losses. We're going to find out more about that. But first, before I forget, we got to thank our biggest group of supporters. That's our Patreons. They're the people who actually get us to events, keep our lights on, and they get shareable art from our past projects. So you have to check it out. goldsquadron.com. Or, I always screwed up. Patreon.com/goldsquadron. Anyways, Dread. I want to start with you. You started the season in the captain's draft. Can you tell us about the origins of the Ascendancy? Where does the name come from? How did you end up being the captain of the team?
Well, last season was my first season playing in the draft league for NCX, and I played on a team called the Punishers. And Noah was the captain of that team, and he had conflicts at the end of the season and wasn't going to be able to continue as captain. So I was asked, and I took ownership of the captaincy of that team. And after talking with Greg, we rebranded the team into the Ascendancy, which was really Greg's idea, because he hated all of my ideas personally. So the Ascendancy was Greg's idea, and I went along and became captain and kind of went through the stages of trying to fast track, learn how the league operates, what the differences are between the captain's draft and the player's draft, and the different times, making trades, trading players, trading draft picks, all of those things starting up until the captain's draft and then the player's draft.
So what is the difference between the player's draft and the captain's draft?
Well, hypothetically, the difference is the player's draft is what everyone generally knows what that is. That's where you draft players into your teams. The captain's draft is just about the draft order. So the captains aren't drafting each other, even though we joke about that all the time. That I've been trying to draft fish for 2 seasons now, but it is about draft order. So normally you would think everyone just wants the lowest draft order so they could draft first, but that's not always the case because sometimes you trade draft picks and it's also a snake draft. So it's, like 1 through 12 and then back 12 to 1 again. So there is a lot of strategy involved in your draft picks. So picking which order that you draft in is the captain's draft.
Okay. Now, did you keep any players from the previous year? I know that's a thing that captains are sometimes allowed to do.
No, since it was a new team, I think I didn't really have any say-so in that. The only thing I did inherit was a loss of a draft pick, which was pretty painful.
That's right. I remember you saying that now.
So our round 2 pick was lost because Noah traded in the playoffs last season for a better player. Actually, he traded Sean away and to get another player. And in doing so, he sacrificed the round 2 draft pick. So that was the only thing I inherited was a deficit.
Okay. Well, starting the season strong, it sounds like. So what can you tell us anything about your experience drafting players? 15 other captains were also in the draft, having basically 30 seconds to choose one of the 100 players who offered them up for selection.
Yeah, it's complicated in the fact that people are trading draft picks the whole time. So trying to keep up with actually who has a draft pick and trading up. So I actually did make some trades before the draft started so that I could get a higher round 1 pick.
Really?
So I was able to get around 7. I was able to get I think it was 7 or maybe it was 9. I was
7.
able.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I was able to. Yeah, I was able to trade up and get 7, and you were available. So I really wanted to try to get a higher round 1 pick, and then try to rest on those. Really, my round 1 pick and myself to kind of be the foundation for the team. But it was. You end up, the coaches, I believe most coaches make a draft board where they separate the players into rounds that they think they should go in. And then they also tag the players with the faction that they're in. So you really it's really hectic because you're trying to draft a specific player that you think is good, but you're also trying to draft a specific faction that they want to play. So you try to run this balance. You may have a good player who you think is really good, but he doesn't play resistance, for example. His top 3 factions aren't resistance, but you need a resistance player. So in round 5, that's actually what I did. I drafted Colin, and Colin, I think you can speak to this too. I mean, the Republic wasn't even one of his top 3 factions, but I thought he was a steal at round 5, so I drafted him into the Republic, even though that wasn't one of his listed factions.
Interesting. So you're having to balance both needing all 7 factions. Well, 6 more factions because of the captain would play a faction. Which is very interesting. Did any of your other picks not go for their faction?
No. I mean, everyone besides Colin was drafted into a faction they wanted to play, except for Fran.
Yep.
I lost a draft pick, so I didn't even have 6 draft picks. So there were other teams that had excess draft picks. So Fran ended up being an end of the draft, I don't know, gift
like
or
a free agent all of a sudden.
right. Yeah, he was assigned. Andre from the Firebirds assigned Fran to my team at the end of the draft. Fran was actually the last drafted player in the entire league, and he and Scum was not his preferred faction. And so he was drafted, got sent to me, and then got assigned Scum. So he was really placed in a bad situation, but he was relatively unknown. So that's why he went last.
Yeah, we can. I think we can pull up actually the standings, but Fran actually did pretty good. Do you have him and Darren's record for the
Yeah,
season?
yeah, I do. So, I mean, just overall, if we're just talking about the season as a whole and how the Ascendancy performed, it's truly an underdog story because you would think the best team is probably a combination of several factors. You would think one, it's the team with the best draft picks. And that definitely wasn't the Ascendancy because the Ascendancy, I only had a round 1, a round 3, 2 round 5s, and a round 6. And then a gifted player, which would essentially be a round 6, but also turned out to be the last player in the draft. So for our team, only having a 1, 3, 2 5s, and a 6, that was definitely a setback. And then also you would think the advantages would be the captain's ability to steer the team into draft picks. But, we made it into the wild card round and we were away 3 of the last 4 series in the playoffs. So we did not even get to pick our matchups for 75% of the games.
Yeah, that's actually something I wanted to talk about. I'm glad you brought that up. But to focus on that for a second, as non-captain, I don't know what exactly happens when you are the away team. So what does the home team send you in that situation?
Well, in the regular season, there is a little strategy involved with the away team. It's not much, but the home team in the regular season, the away team presents a player, and then the home team matches that player and assigns a scenario. And you go through that process. So the only strategy you have is which players you present, and you're benching one of your 7 players. So, for instance, if the home team really wants to match, someone versus one of your better skilled players, you might be benching that player, and that kind of messes up their assignments. But when you get into the finals or the playoffs, it's much simpler than that, and it's much more difficult for the away team because the home team just assigns every match and every scenario. So in the playoffs, the home team has a large advantage.
So they're doing 100% of the pairings then. The away team
Yes.
has no say in the matter.
Yeah, the away team has no say in the matter and has no ability to try to even throw off the pairings.
Although we should note, I believe in season 5 there is going to be a slight change to that. And I don't remember what it is exactly. It might be the away team gets to veto one scenario. Is that right?
Right. Yeah, that's what we're talking about for
Interesting.
initiating in the playoffs next year. But that's still kind of a minor.
It is, but the league is always evolving and
Right.
improving and expanding. So something to mention for the folks out there who may be interested in joining next season.
Good to know. I mean, that's the home advantage in the regular season. Eventually, like trades off. Well, you'll be home sometimes and away some other times. But in the finals, it came down to season standing.
Yeah, overall standings. So the the actual record of the Ascendancy versus 5 Straight Boost, who we played in the finals, our records were actually the same, I believe, but the difference came down to total wins. So the Ascendancy so 5 Straight Boost actually had more wins than we did, so they were home and got to make the picks.
Yep. And that margin was 3 individual wins more than the Ascendancy, by the way.
Really? Out of how many games? 10 weeks season?
Probably 80 to 86 games. Because in the finals, not all of the series went to 7 games.
Oh,
because
true.
Because I believe 5 Straight Boost actually swept the Firebirds.
In the previous round, they had in the conference, they swept the Foxes.
They did.
Oh, the Foxes.
And keep in mind, those standings are just based on regular season, right? So out of the 60 games we played, they had 3 more wins over the regular season than we did, and that was the deciding factor for who was home versus away. That's it.
I mean, if you look at, because I've looked over the sheet probably too much, if you look over the stats and try to figure out like what makes a team perform and what could indicate their performance in the playoffs, I think the only stat that's going to stand out is overall total points scored, which is points scored in the game, which was 5 Straight Boost and the Ascendancy were the 2 top scoring points teams.
And even then, the difference was 40th points across the season.
Yeah, across 60 games.
Yeah.
I mean, the parity in the league is really kind of amazing.
I mean, with the amount of high-skilled players being drafted in each team, every team was fighting for any wins. With the regular season being 6 games, so many draws happened. I mean, the Ascendancy had 4 total draws for the season, and that was even like an outlier stat. That was like the average, it seems like, for most of the teams. So getting those 4 wins, the 4th win for the week as well, really made the difference. Though, just kind of speaking in generality, we also had to go through the wild card round because we were 3rd in the division? Is that what forced us into
We were, third in the division, second in our conference, I believe
That's
it was.
right. Yeah, because we
Or
weren't first
or
in our conference. That's why we had to do
or
the
or
wild
third
card.
in the conference, second in division. I'm not sure which terminology is right there, but yeah, Hot Shots took our grouping by storm, and then we had some amazing 7-game series the first two series in wild card and division.
Yeah, well, both of them going to the seventh game.
Yep.
Very,
Yes.
very close.
As far as the underdog status of the Ascendancy, our two players, Darren and Fran, who were both round 6 draft picks, really did their part in the regular season. They were both 3-4, and that's really good considering the positions they were put in. Because Fran is playing a faction he doesn't play, and Darren is, his performance level was actually higher than people around him at that level. He actually had a positive point spread, which means he actually scored more points than he lost over the course of the 7 games he played. So those two guys, even though in the playoffs their performance records weren't great, in the regular season they actually got us into the wild card spot, which put us into a position to win.
Very true. I mean, it takes all 7 players, right, to make it through.
Yeah, absolutely. And everyone really did their part. In the finals, we did have 3 players that were 4-0 in the playoffs. And I mean, Will, you weren't even given a shot to be 4-0 because you only played 3 games.
No, that's okay.
But Matt has been deemed the MVP of the finals and the playoffs because he had such a hard start at the beginning of the regular season. I think he was 3-6, and toward the end of the season, I was just trying everything possible to try to get him in a better situation to get some wins playing the Resistance. Mm-hmm. And I ended up, talking to him and telling him that I was just going to start giving him the hardest matchups every week, just basically to throw him under the bus and say, hey, look, if you're not going to win, then I want you to take out at least their ace player. And I did that for strategy reasons, but I also did that because he was so stressed out over his games, it seemed like, that I thought maybe reverse psychology would work in his situation. And he turned it around and just started winning games he was never supposed to win. I mean, he beat Doug Howell twice. And, I mean, he just went insane toward the end and just won out every game after that point.
That's awesome. I mean, there's a certain amount of, like that recklessness that you sometimes need to win an unwinnable match.
Well, he also plays unconventional Resistance. I mean, he plays Flyboy Poe and Ray.
Yeah, was he playing that most of the season? I saw him. His game
the whole season.
Video about it. Mark.
Yeah, the whole season. Yeah, absolutely. Wow. He flew that the whole season. I mean, that is a high ceiling, low floor list.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. I remember watching one of his games, just flying with 2 Y-Wings and just, acing people with his Ray. Being able to dodge arcs, and In the game against Mark, he rotated his arc sideways too, making some wild plays to make sure that he was getting the win. But I mean, that's kind of the same thing of like, if you know you're going to lose, if you're set up to lose, the wild decisions don't seem as crazy anymore.
Yeah, I mean once again, I mean in the playoffs, I didn't really have any control of the pairings, but Mark is. I mean, he just came off of a undefeated role in the XVT and won the whole thing in the XVT when it went undefeated playing Rebels. So, I mean, I wanted Matt to win, but I didn't expect him to.
Sure. I mean, that's the reason why he got MVP.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully he can. He said he would join us later, but hopefully he can come on. Well, what about your individual experience, Dread? What did you think of the regular season? And you were flying Rebels. Why did you choose Rebels for yourself?
I mean, I'm pretty much Rebels for life at this point. So I've just been focusing on Rebels and Rebel Jank for years now and trying to refine something more and more each time and not play Han. So, but the interesting thing is with the league is that you actually know in advance which scenario you're going to play, and the lists are not locked. So it really gives you the opportunity to build scenario-specific lists and build faction-specific counters. So, for instance, if I'm playing against Republic, my choice would be to play Salvage because I've spent most of my time practicing and refining a alternate salvage list. And I would pick Salvage because that's a scenario most people don't like. Most people on the team don't want to play Salvage, so I just tried to make a Salvage specific list and play that. But then if I get matched up, half the games, or actually more than half the games, are not my choice, then I play another list that's more specific toward that specific scenario and faction I'm playing against. So, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, there's a lot of strategy involved and a lot of practice and reps that go in, but it's still a dice game that comes down to it. And, so you just try to do your best and mitigate the dice variance. And I try to do that with, various defensive tech that I use. I mean, Avon is pretty much in every list that I fly. So
I was going to say, you got to have your Avon. You're flying Gavin most of the time as well. Not Garvin, the X-Wing. Gavin, the E-Wing. In most of your squads.
So for Salvage, I'm generally playing a 6-ship Gavin list with target sync. And the way I set up is I have the ability to take 4 crates on turn 2, or I can joust. So I kind of make that decision after turn 0 because more of my ships are low initiative. And a lot of my ships have the ability to offset crits as well. So I fly Zeb in the attack shuttle, who nullifies crits before hits. And I also fly Sabine with Beskar plating as well. So I'm trying to, take as many crates as possible or joust with the target sync from Gavin. So he's producing tons of crits on every shot that's coming in. So it's a very, I don't know that it's an overpowered, but it's a very specific list towards salvage.
I mean, that's just one of the advantages you had to try to win over your opponent is that scenario selection. So I think that's actually very smart to focus your list building, knowing that you have to pair somebody into salvage every week when you have the home field advantage. Makes a
Right.
lot of sense to me.
You know, and my teammates don't want to play salvage, and my opponents generally don't want to play it either. So it seems like a perfect place to really focus my attention.
No, I love it. That's that kind of in-depth thinking you had to go into the pairings with.
Yeah, so the pairings, when you are home, I mean, it is a complicated. I don't know what the other captains are doing, but it is a complicated math puzzle that you're trying to fit, because I mean, I'm playing rebels. I'm generally going to play salvage, but I don't want to play against FO for the 1 in 100 chance they would bring tyranny and just completely nullify everything I'm trying to do with Gavin. So,
Sure.
I'm not playing against FO. And then I want, the Republic and the Empire to play on a scenario that doesn't require actions generally, because they need their actions. So they're either going to play on chance or assault. And then that leaves scramble. Generally, you want a higher initiative list to play scramble. So I'm trying to focus maybe FO into a scramble scenario. And then I want to match them up against someone with lower initiative ships. So it's this constant matchup. And then it's not just the factions and the scenarios that you're trying to pair together, but you're also trying to pair players. You don't want your mid-tier player playing against their ace necessarily. You want either your ace to play against their ace, or you want to do some sort of like what we called Matt, to act as the goon or executioner, to put someone who you didn't expect to win to take their ace off of the table. So it's this really complicated. And then in the regular season, you don't even know which player your opponent's going to bench. So if you have a specific pairing that you want, like, hey, I want to play their best player, well, maybe their best player is on the bench that week, and then you unintentionally ice yourself. So it can get complicated.
It sounds like it. So many decision factors going into it, which is really, what, Dread? How would you describe why we were winning away games? What do you think is the real cause of that?
I mean, I've looked at it. Like I said, it's not the draft, because we didn't have a good draft. Mm-hmm. And it's not your captain's ability to lead your team into pairings, because when you're away, you don't have a choice. So it's not even really the perceived skill of the players. Because if you look on paper, if you look at the Ascendancy versus 5 Straight Boost, 5 Straight Boost had 4 players in the top 12 of the entire league. And the Ascendancy only had 1 in the top 10. I mean, that one was me, of course, but enough said on that. If you look at the strength of the players, 5 Straight Boost had a much stronger team. So what possibly could it be that had us performing so well? And the only thing I can really come to is morale. Morale and a belief that we could win. I was always trying to encourage our players, figure out, what they needed, keep them encouraged. Matt got on a hot streak and believed again. And we just believed we could win. And we went into every matchup thinking we could win. I mean, that sounds like fluff, but there's nothing else that can explain it.
I mean,
no, I would.
It sounds about
I would
right.
agree. And just from my standpoint, right? I'm a team guy. I like to be in there chatting with the group and building those relationships, encouraging and bouncing ideas off people. And it's kind of silly to say in a digital forum, but I think that can help and build that camaraderie, if you will. And it felt like we were a team. So I think that does have a lot of intangible reality to it.
Yeah, I mean, bouncing list ideas off of each other, checking in on each of us to try to get in practice games, watching each other on Greg's stream as well. Watching back those games and seeing everybody, rooting for myself or whoever's playing on our team. Those little things really do matter.
Yeah, and I know during the finals week, I think I had 3 or 4 practice games with different folks on the team just to kind of help them out. And while I can play and fly a lot of the stuff out there, doesn't mean I'm great at it, but at least I can throw some things they might see out there and give them a sense of what it could look like to at least help prepare. I know on Colin's game where he clinched it for us, we ended up playing a practice game, and the list I threw together wasn't too far off what he ended up seeing, I think, which was fortunate. And I can't speak for Colin about how well it helped, but I like to think it at least helped a little bit.
Oh, for sure.
And that week we gave Dredd practice games with Empire, so he would have a sense of what he was facing against Rob.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's really just putting in the work, and trying to find what advantage you can get against your opponent when you're stuck with maybe an unfavorable matchup or scenario. I want to keep going with the individual talk, but James, Ryan, I don't want to leave you guys out. Any thing that has come to mind? Any questions that I'm not thinking of at this moment?
Nothing immediately that I can think of. Actually, so for the Ascendancy, what is the Ascendancy's outlook for season 5? How do you feel about your do you know your draft picks available right now and everything? Is that already known?
Yes, that's already known. We actually should be in better shape for next season because I didn't trade away any draft picks this season. So I have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the next season we're actually going to have 7 rounds. It looks like at least. So there'll be more players on the teams for next season. So the Ascendancy actually looks to be better. And I get the ability to keep one of my players. So I will be trading off probably a draft pick to keep a player on the team, but I mean, it's not official yet, but I would have to trade a round 4 pick to keep a round 5 player, which seems pretty easy decision for me at this point. I can only keep one, so unfortunately, Will, you're too expensive to keep. So
I was gonna say, I think you gotta
it's not
take
gonna
your
be
first
you.
and second. That's fine. I understand.
Yeah, you got to evaluate the value deals. You never know.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
as
Cool.
Greg
It's
had,
interesting to hear that like the Ascendancy had just won, and you feel even better about this year's draft than last year's. So
I
that's pretty
mean,
good.
next year's draft, Brendo definitely has the best team on paper. We've kind of joked about him tanking this season to build season 5 into an incredible team. And he has some incredible draft picks. I think he has like 4 round 1s, and he might have more than that. But the Firebirds had the first and second overall pick of the entire draft, and they did make the playoffs, but they didn't even make it to the finals. So, and we're proof that it's not necessarily the drafts that you get, it's what you do with them that matters.
very true, very true.
During the year for Ascendancy, I believe there's a certain time where you're allowed to move players onto different factions. Did you make any of those adjustments, and if so, what were they?
No, we didn't, and that's primarily because I'm playing Rebels and I'm stuck with Rebels. So I'm not going to play a different faction. I mean, I could, but I just feel like my advantage is playing Rebels. So you kind of know that going in to the Ascendancy that you're kind of going to be stuck playing your faction for the whole season.
Because when you do
keep in
change,
mind,
sorry,
everybody changes.
Yes. So
that's what it was.
That's what
I forgot
referring
everybody
to.
had to change. Yeah.
Right. You make one
I
change,
think
everybody does.
the only exception is, I think, if you trade for a player or trade a player away and the person coming in is in a faction that's already taken. But that's a little more complicated, I think.
Yeah, I mean, some behind the scenes, to kind of give a peek in the behind the scenes. Toward week 3 and 4, I was actually in discussion to trade for Ozagal. So Ozagal would be playing Resistance, so I would have traded Matt away. And I just didn't want to do that because, one, I just kept believing that Matt was going to... I felt like he was a good player that just was underperforming. And I didn't want to put myself behind the gun for next season by losing a draft pick. But there were serious discussions to make that trade. And that trade did actually happen between 5 Straight Boost. So Ernie got traded to 5 Straight Boost at some point during the season. I don't know what round that was.
Interesting. I like the commitment to just, whatever you had planned. But that is a good forewarning for anybody that you do draft or a prospective player for the Ascendancy next year, is that they're not going to get those Rebels.
Yeah, you could actually, because we're drafting a 7th player. So it looks like we're going to have a team with 2 factions of the same faction next season. So it looks like it's going to be that way. So there's a possibility, but you're probably going to be, if you're on the Ascendancy, you're probably going to be stuck with the faction you get for the whole season.
Which can be good and bad. honestly, because if it's not a faction you're familiar with, it gives you the freedom to explore and experiment and learn. Albeit it can be a learning curve, as we saw. And if you're playing a faction like, say, First Order, it can feel a little stale after a while because First Order, Resistance, CIS, Republic. I mean, Republic's probably in a better spot with some of the variety, but with certain factions, it feels like there's not a lot of open space to explore. And the deeper you go in the season, when the games start to feel like they matter more, you do feel like maybe experimenting now is not the best choice, right? So, for example, I wanted to take an Upsilon at some point during the season. I just couldn't find the fit to do it. So I didn't put an Upsilon on the table except maybe in a practice game or two.
And I was known to have heart-to-hearts with players at times.
He was,
like, hey, I need you to win these games. I don't know what you got to do. If you got to play meta, then you're going to have to play meta.
I remember, my so going back to like our individual experiences, I'll keep mine quick because I was kind of giving updates throughout the season. But that is one thing I do remember, Dread, is I tried out like a Lambda shuttle and a Whisper because it was extended. And then, what was I? Oh, James, I was working on that like 6 TIE fighters and 2 bombers list. I was just getting too experimental, too silly for my own good. And yeah, Dread, you're like, what? Is there any matchups I could get? Yeah. Is there any practice games you need? Like, what can I do to help you get some wins in? Which was like eye opening for me. I was like, okay, yeah, I have been getting a little silly lately with my squads. And that's actually what's interesting is that I started the season like assuming that I was going to play X1 Vader like all season. And like that was kind of like I was going to rotate in the different pieces, kind of what I was doing in Store Championship tournaments I had gone to. But once I had started looking at what other people were being successful with in Empire, that's why I actually started flying the Decimator. Ryan, you and Doug were on the Decimator with the Death Troopers and Bombers. And that I had to do a lot of practice for Rack. The Bombers I was pretty familiar with, but do some practice getting Rack into that Death Trooper zone, doing things like that. Of some riding that line between keeping Rack safe and in the fight. But I found a lot of success with it, honestly, and for the most part, I had a lot of fun. It was a little feels bad, the whole Darth Vader into ships, but Empire's so
it is. But that does raise the point, Will, I do want to raise. And for anybody who might be considering signing up or looking at signing up for Season 5, right? 10 weeks is a lot and is a long season, even though you're only usually playing one game a week, right? Don't get in your head. Don't overthink it, right? Fly something you're comfortable with. If you're not comfortable experimenting, do that in your side practice games to find out what you like. But, just don't overthink it. It doesn't have to be rocket science. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be stressful. Just fly something and have fun. That's the goal.
Yeah, I ended up doing more like what kind of ended up being like meta stuff, but I don't think that was like the staple for the season. I think most people were trying. I kept flying like pretty much a different list every week, but I think for the most part, people were finding their own style that really worked for them. Sean, what were you flying most of the year?
So I was First Order, And I flew mostly 5-ship first order. Typically, Kylo and the Whisper, some variant there, usually Barrage Rocket Lahuse, Magpulse Malarus, and then depending on the situation, some variety of um, 2 other ships, either like Midnight, Gaelic, Scorch. Some things with Assault or whatnot, I might fly a 6-ship list, but generally that was kind of the formula I stuck with most of the season. Just because you start looking at a 4-ship list and it runs into certain problems in some scenarios, and so, but I had fun with it.
Did you ever end up flying that Epsilon? Never did, huh?
Not for an official game. Although I will say last year was also my first year, last season, and Noah, as mentioned earlier, traded me from the Punishers to what was the predecessor to the Firebirds, the Tender Gods, Nick Sperry's team, and they were kind of out of it at that point. So one week I had a game with Assault, and I said, what the heck? So I ran an Upsilon and 3 Z shuttles just for the kick, and it was hilariously not good, but it was fun.
Well, I mean that's really what it comes down to, right? As
Yeah,
much as winning is fun, having fun is also having the primary
absolutely.
goal.
And none of the people I played against were poor sports or not people I wouldn't play again. We've got some great folks in the league. If you're a newer player, it's an absolute godsend for getting better because there is talent up and down the board from every level. We had guys that were brand new to the game, had only played a few games coming in, and we had world champions from Ollie Pocknell and on down. So you have a huge range of skill levels, and with the team, you can really hone in what you want to do, practice it with your teammates, bounce ideas off, build that camaraderie, and just go learn and get better. And that's a great thing.
I mean that's the advantage of doing like a long form team event rather than like an individual. There's no one rooting for you. There's nobody really helping you practice and get better. So
Exactly.
the
There's
team.
always something to root for.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Colin, what about you? What were you flying during the season?
I got drafted into Republic, a faction that I really didn't have much experience with prior to the draft league, so it took a little bit of getting used to. But I started out with the standard Annie and 3 arcs and something else for seasoning, but experimented a little more and ended up with the final list having no arcs at all that last game. I like the flexibility of higher ship count.
Yeah. What did you end up? What was it, Ada's? What else was
Yeah,
in that squad that you ended up flying?
Annie and Obi, the Edas, the 2 Initiative 5 V-Wings, the Mace, and the other Jedi ships, and then Slider.
Pretty cool.
Just gave me a lot of room to barrel roll boost and kind of circle around to get a good shot in when I needed it. And then just having 3-point V-Wings and dedicated on Slider let me make the opponent work really hard to get half points on a 3-point ship.
Yeah, I mean everybody's 3 agility, except for just the 2-pointer. To make it
Yeah,
pretty
poor Slider.
difficult. I'm sure he was doing his other clones proud in those games.
He did his job. Saved me definitely in a couple matchups with that dedicated.
Just one thing on Colin. I don't know that he would speak for himself, but he was the best overall performing player for the Ascendancy for the entire season, including the finals and playoffs.
Yes, he was.
Wow, nicely done.
Thank you. It was good getting in practice with the team and finding out, even a list that I thought might work, what worked better with it. Had a game with Sean before the final and figured out a better way to deploy and sort of approach the center objective in chance, and I think that worked out really well for me, getting that extra round in.
Yeah, because Dredd said he was feeding Republic, Chance and Assault, so you wouldn't have to press any buttons.
Yep.
Makes sense. Makes sense. I was in the same boat. I don't think I ever. Yeah, it was only on like the away matchups. I think actually only I think 2 games out of the entire season I didn't play Assault or Chance Engagement.
Yeah, I had a lot of Assault, some Scramble, some Chance, but it was a lot of Assault as well.
Yeah, Judd, so with 6 games, you do have to feed. You just double up on 2 scenarios. Then is that right? In like the regular season.
Yeah. So you had to represent all the scenarios, and then one of them had to be represented twice. And then in the finals, you had to represent 2, because in the finals it was 7 games. Or in the playoffs and the finals, there were 7 games. So you would have 2 scenarios twice. You couldn't have one 3 times. Right, that's right.
Yeah, 4 scenarios. So which scenario did you never double up on? Or did it change each week? Well, you only did pairings once.
Yeah, I only did pairings one time. So I think we did. I think we just did salvage, and then generally Chance and Assault are more favorable. So and I always tried to match you against Scum once you start playing Rack, because Rack with Death Troopers and Vader is just a nightmare to Fang fighters.
Yeah. And people were flying Fang fighters. I was waiting for Ernie to bust out some like Boba Dengar or something, but I didn't have a chance to play him to see what craziness he would have brought. James, you've been notably quiet, except for asking Greg questions.
I just been bothering Greg. No, is that okay?
That's totally fine. I just wanted to make sure you didn't have any questions, anything come to mind, something we might have missed out on for the draft league conversation.
I don't think so. I think most of my thoughts lay ahead as I'm looking forward to season 5.
You and Ryan got the itch.
So, yeah. So, James, I did want to ask you, this was your first season with the league, right?
It was, yeah. And honestly, I just got thrown in at the last second because Will was like, "Hey, go sign up for this," and I was like, "What is this?" And he was like, "It's a league thing." And I was like, "Oh, I'm really not a fan of leagues."
Did it change your mind?
Oh yeah, it definitely changed my mind. I had a great time. I think I will be a lot more excited for next season because I actually know what's going on. Like, because I signed up and then like one day Will was like,
"Oh, you got
drafted
second round."
You got drafted second round. I was like, I don't even know what that means. And then I went and looked, and I was like, I started watching, and
Yeah, I was like, you're on the seafood consortium, and you're like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, I was like, I don't know what words did you just say to me? And I go in there, and this guy's painting a tree for me.
Yeah,
I was like, all right, I'm in. Like, let's go.
good.
Yeah,
I'm glad you had a good time.
yeah,
That's
yeah. I was
awesome.
definitely had a great time. Very excited for season 5, and actually going to be able to watch the draft with like knowing what all these things mean.
Watch the draft. Weren't you going to
Yeah.
captain a team? Didn't you volunteer to captain a team, James?
Yeah, I was actually just talking to Greg about it. I think when I first signed up, I want to say I put like no, but
I said
I had him,
if absolutely necessary, which like
Yeah.
most people.
yeah, but I had him change it to I would not mind captaining, so I think it'd be fun.
Nice. And I see Ryan is going to join us this season, so that's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, so yeah.
Yeah. And I also
Yeah.
prefer not
So-
to be a captain for my first season. I'll let it play
Yeah,
out. I'll be in this team and catch some dubs.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. Just enjoy the experience, right? Immerse yourself. And, you know, I know that season 5 is coming up, and Will, I know you wanted to talk a little bit about that, so, and I'm sure you'll get to it.
Yeah.
But for anybody considering it, having heard you speak about it over the, past few weeks or so, if you're unsure, come join the Discord, check it out. It's a great group, and jump in, have fun. Everybody who signs up is drafted.
That's true. That's what Greg was just saying. That's why we're able to allow these extra players for the team, which is nice because you don't have to, say you're going on a week vacation or something. It's just get a substitute. So now even more flexibility in those games.
Yeah, because life does happen. It happened a few times. In fact, I think I subbed in for Darren one week because he had something come up where his schedule didn't align with his opponent's. And so instead of my bye week, I filled in for him, and happy to do that. So, there are ways if life happens.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, X-Wing is very important, but, when you do have real life things to attend to.
Absolutely.
One of my favorite things about the league, it probably is my favorite, is the fact that, I mean, this is a very family friendly podcast, but Nickel City Draft League is very adult friendly, and I embrace that throughout the entire league. And and trash talk is at a premium,
And encouraged.
And I encourage my team members to jump into the Draft League general chat and call their players out, call the opposing team out, and make it known who we're playing against. It's hilarious and fun for me, and it's a very enjoyable side of the game as well.
It really does bring back the human element in a way to the digital experience, which is awesome. And whatever you put into it with your team makes it that much more enriching. I can't speak for other teams and what their engagement level was, but I know I was in our team chat every day at least a couple times, just chatting up people. So
yeah, I mean, it's just an instant community, all at the ready for you. So yeah, I think pretty much everybody. It sounds like we all improved over the season through that hard work. So with that kind of effort, anybody should be able to improve their game. Even if you're not looking to improve, you're just looking to have some fun, play some games. You can still do that too. We're hoping Matt would make an appearance, but I don't think he ever set that alarm, huh?
Maybe not.
Maybe not. That's okay. Maybe we'll stop in. As we round out the draft league talk, do you want to look forward to season 5? And I'm pulling all this information from Greg's Discord, the Nickel City X1 Discord. But as a note, you only have until February 1st for signups. There is a captain's draft on the 6th. The week after that is the players draft. And then finally, on February 19th, week 1 begins. So a quick turnaround there from when you're drafted into when the season starts. But you will have at least your faction known for the beginning of the season before it actually begins. It would just be waiting on your captain to give you a pairing. So I'll have the links in hopefully the description of the video and the podcast. If not, they'll be posted in GSP's own Discord as well. Love to support Greg in this endeavor. I know it's a huge amount of work. A custom season, decals or logos for every team, intro videos. Greg's really put through a lot of effort. So the true hero and winner, honestly, of every season is Greg. So I have to
Absolutely
make sure we give him a big shout out. Well, we can wait for Matt here, but we do want to finish off. You guys are more welcome to stay and talk about our year in review. We are going to take next week off as it's going to be Christmas Day on Monday. Yeah, Christmas Day. So probably not going to have the time to podcast. We're going to be celebrating the holidays that day, but we will be back then the following Monday, but that'll be 2024. We don't want to talk about 2023 in the new year. So
you're going to podcast on New Year's Day?
Yeah, New Year's Day. It'll be fun.
Yes.
Nice. Yeah.
And
have time to sleep off.
As a little sneak preview, you probably don't want to miss it, as we will have the World's event organizer Chris Allen on that night for the cast to help inform us on some very Worlds related information that he wants to give out to the community and answer some questions we may have regarding what he has to tell us about for Worlds this year. So don't miss that episode.
That's awesome.
Heck yeah. So definitely stay tuned. Going to be looking forward to another exciting year, another season, and I mean, just another Worlds. Looking back at my 2023, Worlds blew me away. Like, we had come back in 2022, me, Dion, James, we did Adepticon in 22 to great success. Not financial success, let me tell you, but it was a great tournament for everybody involved. And Marcel even got second place. So really, everybody had a great time. And that led into then Adepticon becoming the World's venue for 2023. And man, seeing everybody, Isofane getting those international players to Worlds, the camaraderie that everybody had, and I just remember the like the finals day. They had like roped off all the tables, and everybody in the crowd was very excited to see those high competitive matches begin. And that, just like looking over the crowd and seeing just all these familiar faces from around the world, really reminded me again what is possible in X-Wing. And that was just the start to what I think was an extremely successful, like, competitive season. People got hyped after Worlds for store championships and these world qualifiers. So really, that event, I think, was the spark that 2023 needed to really start off on the competitive season. And really get X-Wing just back on the tables and in people in the conversation. As obviously the year prior, having to do with the new rules, but I think we had reached that sweet spot this year where people were starting to get that like fear of missing out. They're like, oh man, all my old friends are still playing X-Wing, having a great time. I gotta jump in there. They got, and then people, finding these store championships really was, I think the litmus test of, is X-Wing still like a good community and like a good game? And for me, that how successful Worlds was for the players and the staff, everybody working it, was my highlight and of my highlight of the 2023. But what about you, James? What would you say your highlight was for 2023?
I'd say being able to go to so many different store events. And this is also kind of my first real year in this new community since I moved. So it was nice to get to know a lot of the people here and do a lot of events. And being able to, I think for me, the Naboos being such a big part of the meta, even if they weren't, even if it's mostly just Padme, is pretty cool for me because that's one of my favorite ships. So being able to fly to Naboos consistently and like not bad is pretty cool for me.
People weren't like shocked when they saw them.
Yeah. Well, they were shocked to see the second one. They're like, oh, okay, well, that's weird. Why do you have two Padmes? But yeah, it was a ton of fun.
Awesome. What about you, Ram?
Kind of echoing a lot of what was said about Worlds. It's definitely I think what people underestimate is the fact that in a way, it was a very community ran Worlds. Basically, every official facing person that was in charge in some capacity, whether judge, event organizer, and all the titles that I'm probably missing that are very specific to what each person is set to do, were all community members and all people who have committed themselves to being event organizers, tournament organizers, judges, or in some capacity help running events in the past that basically put together an all-star team and ran it like true professionals. And on that side also understood what a lot of events that they've been in the past on the player side of things. Being that Roll Better was basically rolled out as its first major event was Worlds, right? Like maybe there was a test event for GSP usage, but man, beyond maybe I think the general traffic that's the servers of Roll Better had to deal with, I mean, that worked really awesome and set up a completely whole new software for tournament organizers to use. I know there's a general split between like Roll Better and Longshanks. Both can work. Both have been fine-tuned a little bit here and there from community feedback to make them better. but I think that was a big positive that came out of Worlds for sure. Was we had basically community ran Worlds that also had a very successful launch overall of a software we still use throughout the entire year of 2023. We also saw the tournament structure itself of more Swiss rounds, smaller cut from Worlds start to propagate itself across other World Open qualifiers too, and to some degree even store champs. Some people adopted the idea of like re-looking at the amount of players versus how many rounds of Swiss there should be versus how many people in the cut there should be. Not that I believe that there's 100% right or wrong answer. I think there could be. I've talked to people who believe that they feel the old methodology is still a little bit more fun or a little more engaging in the long run for more players to feel like they have a better chance versus being in their mind eliminated earlier on in an event, depending on the size and the tightness of the cut. But is interesting to see throughout the whole year, and I'm pretty sure. I think Chris Allen's gonna. He's pretty good at keeping track of the data and information that he can get his hands on from the X-Wing community through List Fortress and whatnot to look at, a whole year of that type of tournament structure. Was it a good thing or a bad thing? Was it a net positive or not? And I think that's something he's probably heavily looking at to make sure how Worlds will be run this year. Was it successful? What needed to be tweaked? And then, obviously just seeing everyone, right? Like getting to go to events, enjoy fun times with friends, make new friends, meet people who I never got a chance to see. I went to Canada for the first time, like ever as an adult, which was awesome. Beyond finding out that like maybe poutine's not a food for me, but I tried it. It's very heavy stuff. But yeah, it was fun to see the Canadian crew up there. Mainly Ewok Squadron were the guys in the Ontario area. So yeah, it was great. It was great to actually go. I mean, to go to a different country, albeit within like a 2-hour drive from me to the event. So it's not crazy to think about. It's not like flying across oceans, but still cool to make that trip, and generally found everyone there to be really fun, and tournament was well ran. So big props to the Ewok Squadron guys to set up that event. I know they were hoping to turn their 4-city open into a World Open qualifier. Maybe they'll have a chance at making that a qualifier for like next year. Fingers crossed for them. I think those are kind of my major highlights, just the general seeing friends, the success of Worlds, and how it's sort of snowballed into how it's affected other events, and then getting it to go to Canada.
That's awesome. Very exciting news indeed. What about you, Colin? Do you have any highlights for the 2023 season?
Just getting to play with a great team and against really great opponents.
I'm losing you, Colin. Can you say that again?
Just getting to play with a really great team and against really great opponents.
Awesome. Good to hear. Sean, how about you? Any highlights for 2023?
Well, I think the biggest highlight for me was a store championship that I went to in Colombia back in September. And we had trekked over to Raleigh for an event there. And so I wasn't sure what I wanted to fly. Last minute, I threw in the Perco Han list with Juke Keel, Boy Luke, Sabine with Bethgar, and Hull Okend, and somehow ended up winning the event and a World's invite. So I'm still a little bit in shock with that because I don't consider myself at that level of a player. But hey, I'll take it. Had some great games, got to meet some of the folks from the Nickel City X-Wing group. So like JJ and Andrew and a few folks like that. So it was just good fun, good community, and that would probably be my highlight so far.
That's awesome. Jared, how about yourself?
Yeah, really, I think it's kind of two stories. You know, there's the online version, TTS, and then there's the in-person version. I mean, online, it's been kind of a crazy year because I played a lot on Hexout Gaming, and then that negative announcement was made, and then Worlds happened, which was positive, and then the OP kits were released, and then Store Championships took place, and Nickel City X-Wing, and just these big swings in events that took place. You know, Dread doesn't officially play in-person events, but I do have good information that Thomas Anonymous did get a World's invite. So that was a good experience, beating Duncan Howard in a final to get that invite. Thomas happened to also be at the store championship where Sean won. So Sean did earn that invite for sure. So
and I still couldn't point Thomas out in a crowd. I tell you, that guy is hard to spot.
I couldn't either, actually.
That's awesome. I mean, that's true, I think, of X-Wing. That the... And it's not necessarily a bad thing, actually. The kind of rise of the in-person play has been fantastic overall for the game and the community. Players still out there embracing those store championships, still meeting players, still getting new ships out on the table. Really, it's been fantastic. Ryan, did you say you had responses? We wanted to shout out a couple people who.
Yeah, there were some people. I mean, we generally asked GSP community if they had any memorable moments themselves. There was a lot more newer or new player responses that I had expected, which is awesome to see. We got Grusalug said he and some buddies in the Great White North, they just got into the game over the summer. They're having a ton of fun. One of them got a Worlds invite, which made us realize it was even a possibility to then go. Then another one of their group got an invite that were like, all right, we're going to Worlds. 4 of us committed to the 8-hour drive.
Wow,
and then recently, in an event needed 2 more people to show up for a 16 for a threshold for their store championship. So him and his buddy drove up, threw some lists together. Grusalag lost in the finals, but the winner wasn't able to go, so the invite got handed down to him. So he got an invite as well. So 3 of their 4-player group, new players, got invites to Worlds, which is awesome to see. We got that dude 95s as a newer player getting started in X-Wing last year. Came across GSP for the first time. Really likes the content. Appreciates, our enthusiasm, or fed his enthusiasm for X-Wing, and won their first casual tournament. Says by gaining the insight from watching GSP. It's been more fun now being familiar with the community. Won't be able to make it to Worlds this year, but he's hoping to go in 2025. But yeah, those are some of the new player things, specifically from those players themselves. I mean, there was even a decent-sized story from Nutano saying a newer Republic player at a World Open qualifier missed getting that Republic cardboard by like 0.01 strength of schedule for the final standings. Nutano and other members of the community banded together to try and get that player the cardboard for the Republic. So between that and I think they got some Inferno Squadron cardboard for another member of their community that was newer, and then in the next more local store champ event was able to get them those cardboards, which was a really cool, heartfelt style moment for the community, and everyone was all happy and cheered on that those players got what they were really looking for. So lots of really cool, wholesome stuff that a lot centered around new players, which is awesome to hear because I know we hear more often than not people getting concerned about like where are the new players or my community is like on the down low, which can be true as well, you know, but we're also seeing pockets of areas where stuff is shifting up, newer players getting into it. Maybe newer players are already getting into it now, they just haven't gotten to the stores yet, right? Because we all have been at that time frame where we got into the game but didn't get to the store yet to play an event. We weren't sure about like if we were experienced enough, how to play the game correctly. Some people are shy or social discomfort type of thing, right? So those new players are still out there, right? And just if you make sure advertise your events, make sure you're a welcoming environment, you'll have those players coming by.
That's true. I mean, the community seems to constantly have new faces, so always awesome to see and hear those stories about them. I mean, as you said, I mean, I think we all were nervous about our first events, but I mean, I can only imagine those players who just got that. Just they're hooked now. They're list building. They're prepping. They're excited for Worlds. So I can only imagine the buzz around the community. Anything else worth mentioning from that, or something you wanted to highlight? Would be a better way of saying that. No, doesn't sound like it. Or are you just still looking?
Just double checking through here. Okay, yeah, no new ones came up. Just let's see. Guy High 77. Another learning to play. Had a friend teach us. Two of us on New Year's last year, so like to the day, start of 2023.
Wow.
Pulled two more players on a consistent basis. They're trying to get 2 to 4 others into the game. So even new players getting more new players into the game. And a couple of small mentions. Let's see, we got Lou the Lunatic. As I mentioned when I went up to Canada, he was excited. Favorite moment of the Forest City Open. Got to meet me, and I drove up with Cody Wood. Had some good times. And Psych J7, Nova Open. Also enjoyed playing against me for the first time. And really enjoyed casting with Dion on the final day, which I think he did a great job at.
Awesome to hear. Yeah, looking forward to a lot more X-Wing that I can hopefully match quite an exciting year for myself. So, yeah, the future looks bright for now. The next podcast, though, as we were saying, is going to be on the 1st. Though you guys should check out on Wednesdays. We're going to be live on Twitch. And I think in January, what was the exact date, James? January 20 what is LVO?
Oh,
I always forget now.
LVO is going to be January 19th and 20th.
18th through the 21st. Long weekend.
Is it Thursday as well?
Well, I think that's when we're...
Okay, 19. Yeah, 19 through 21 January. I was like, yeah. Oh man, really doing it.
Yeah, it should be Friday and Saturday Swiss, and then cut on Sunday, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think it's 2 Swiss, then cut on Sunday. Yeah.
Awesome. So we'll be looking forward to that last World Qualifier for North America this year. Then essentially the end of the store championship in January. Then it's going to be full-on Worlds prep. So very, very exciting. Very exciting events to look forward to the following year. But we'll save all that for our next podcast when we get Chris on and can talk about what he's cooking up for his next events. But from everybody here at Gold Squadron, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for the Ascendancy, you guys joining us. I love to hear about the excitement of the season. I thought everybody did a fantastic job. Big effort from everybody there.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, we appreciate it. And I look forward to crushing you all in the next season.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Would love to have you.
We're all on the
as
same
teammates
team,
again.
though.
Ooh, yeah. Quick, draft all of us again.
I mean, I'll try. We'll see. We'll see where you go. If you're still available, I think I'll have the 12th pick, maybe.
I understand. No pressure. I gotta fill those factions. You know what I mean? So, but still, gonna be very exciting. Looking forward to the next season, playing with and against you guys. But for everybody here,
should have a great 24 coming, right?
A 24? Oh yeah.
Yeah, 2024 should be a great year.
Very excited. We'll catch up with you. I'm losing my train of thought here. It's been a long weekend, but
yeah,
very, very exciting. So let's close it out. Like I said, check out the streams on Twitch. Check out the videos on YouTube. We should have the XTC videos. I'll be posting them this week. 9 games, very exciting stuff. So look forward to that. And LVO in January. For everybody here at Gold Squadron, stay safe, stay smart. Gold Squadron out.
Thank you to ISO, Danko, Baffle, Trojan, Prophet, Shadow, Tycho, Spice, Raider, Lancer, Fallen, Row 6, 626, Chief, and J List, our Grand Admiral patrons. And all of our Gold Squadron patrons and community members, thank you for your support. Gold Squadron out.